pleasant good night for another episode of The Observer right here on Synergy TV with yours truly, Mikee K. We're going to kickstart things off with our cold file edition with veteran journalist Mr. Francis Joseph. Pleasant good evening, Mr. Joseph, and welcome once again. It's always a pleasure to have you here on The Observer. I hope all is well with you.
Yes, Mikee K, all is well. Nice to be here again.
Great. A lot of folks have been asking about these cold cases. Let's go back 18 years ago, May of 2004. Ashmead Bash, son of former MP of Naparima, Nizam Bash. Now, Ashmead was kidnapped and reportedly he was murdered the day after he was abducted. And his body was found at around his Barrackpore home, about a few kilometers away from his Barrackpore home, about 2 days later. Take us back to that. I mean, this is one of the cases, of course, that you would have been observing and could share some information to our viewers.
Yeah, certainly. It was on the 16th of May, 2004. A call was made to the home of his parents, and his father is Nizam Bash, who was a former MP for Naparima, and he was a former minister in the PP government. Right. That family received a ransom call that Ashmead was kidnapped that day, and they were demanding between $3 and $5 million. Now, calls came, about 3 to 4 calls came, and then it suddenly stopped. And the following day, Ashmead's body was found, as you say, in Barrackpore. He was shot to death, and his body was partially burnt. All the calls stopped after that day. But there were allegations at the time that this was not just a kidnapping for ransom. This was some sort of revenge, because it is alleged, and 18 years ago it was highly rumored, that he had a romantic relationship with one Mala Mohammed. Mala Mohammed was the wife of Uncle Khalid. You remember that owner of the supermarket in Princestown?
Yeah, quite clearly
right?
remember,
Yeah. 6 days before Ashmead was kidnapped, that was May 10th, 2004, Mala was driving into her gate at Edward Street in Princestown. Now, there's a security guard who opened the gate for her. And as she drove in, 2 men, masked men, shot her dead right there. She died on the spot. Investigations were conducted. The watchman gave a statement. The maid who was in the house heard when she came in through the gate, and saw the 2 men, but couldn't identify because, as you say, they were wearing masks.
Right.
Sometime later, the police in Princestown and Homicide, headed by one Sergeant Fitzgerald George, arrested 2 guys in the same year, 2004, one Sheldon Reed and one Devan Swan, both from Five Rivers, Aruka. But that's totally up in the north, and this happened quite down in the south.
But let me ask you, these 2 men, were they known to police?
They were not known to police. So if they were masked men, they left no fingerprints. It was strange. But then the police came up and said, well, they arrested one man and he confessed. He gave a statement and he implicated the second man.
Right.
And that's how the 2 were arrested. So eventually, after 15 years on remand, they were in the remand yard for 15 years. The trial eventually was heard in early 2020 before Justice Maria Wilson in the Port of Spain High Court. Everything came out. The watchman had died during that period, so his statement was tendered, so they couldn't cross-examine him. The maid was of no help because she couldn't identify the men.
Right.
All they had really was this alleged confession by one of the guys, implicating himself and the other one. I remember there was a question at the time that came up they questioned the Sergeant George. Was Uncle Khaled a suspect? He said no, he was a person of interest, but not a suspect. And at the time of Marla's murder, Uncle Khaled was in Miami on business.
Right. So he was out of the country.
So the case went, he was out of the
was out of the
country at the time of the murder.
All right.
Yeah. So, but rumors were circulating and you know, where was Uncle Khaled and all that, but that was a side issue. So after weeks of this trial in the Port of Spain High Court, would you believe the jury unanimously acquitted these two guys? You know? So in other words, it means that they spent 15 years on remand. Jury, not a judge, the jury returned not guilty verdicts. These two guys were acquitted. They were able to walk out of the Hall of Justice. And in fact, one of the guys outside refused to talk to the media because he said, you know what? My wife died a few days ago and I'm just heading home now to bury her. So that he didn't talk at all. He didn't have anything to tell the media when he was acquitted. So in other words, Marla Muhammad death remained unsolved because the two guys who they suspected turned out to be not guilty. And in the case of Ashmead Bash, police interviewed at least 60 people.
Yeah, that's right.
All kind of people. And you know what? No one was ever formally arrested and charged. So that murder remained unresolved. Marla Muhammad own, where there was a connection, also remained unresolved.
All right.
And I keep saying all the time, every time TTPS arrests somebody and charge them for murder, they say case solved. I keep telling them case is not solved until a jury verdict. Then you will know.
Let's just pay some bills and come right back. This is quite interesting as we continue to connect the dots with this cool case. We'll be right back. Stay here.
Tired of being uncomfortable, sweating it out in a hot car? Then bring that mobile oven to Ryan Air AC, experts in auto air conditioning. We service any make or model vehicle. Free diagnostics. Most repairs done while you wait. Ryan Air AC provide warranties for replacement parts installed at our service center. We also stock a wide range of OEM replacement parts. Located number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua. To make a service appointment, give us a call at 640-5828. Ryan Air AC, over 30 years in the auto air conditioning industry. Get your fresh and frozen meats at Dabadi Meat Mart. We provide healthy chickens at competitive prices. Also duck, lamb, goat, turkey drumsticks, pigtail, chicken parts, and more. Customers can have their fresh and frozen meats cut up free of charge. Dabadi Meat Mart, located corner Larry Sauce North Road and Eastern Main Road, Dabadi. Open Wednesday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 12 noon. You can place your pickup orders by calling 642-2287. We adhere to all COVID protocols for the safety of you and your loved ones. Looking to upgrade or purchase a new computer? Then visit Cyrus Technology, located number 83 Arima Old Road, Aruca. Cyrus Technology also carries a large stock of computer parts, such as hard drives, optical drives, video cards, monitors, desktops, power supplies and cases, and much more. Cyrus Technology for computer parts, new computer sales and services. Give us a call at 646-3741 or 681-8762 or email us at cyrustech@hotmail.com.
And we're back, folks, and we're looking at a 18-year-old cold case with a veteran journalist who's always trying to connect the dots right here on The Observer, Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis, of course, there are those who believe that at that time, of course, they were saying that he recognized his abductors. Others saying that the kidnappers got scared because of certain individuals were also on their trail. But as you mentioned earlier, one senior officer made it quite clear that this was a clear hit. And you also mentioned that, yes, they did speak to at least 60 persons who were questioned, but at least six suspects were detained, but no one was charged. I mean, looking at it based on your experience, I mean, this had to be something that was well orchestrated, because police also mentioned that this plot to abduct Ashmead was planned 3 months prior. So it was a matter of monitoring, checking out his moves. He was getting phone calls to come to a certain site. He had work to do. He couldn't get there. But on that particular day, when he dropped his workers off early, he went there. When you look at that, I mean, this was not just done by one or two individuals. Did you come across, I mean, based on what you uncovered?
Yeah, well, in kidnapping cases, potential victims are monitored from long before, right, to know their movements and when is the right time to snatch them, so there will be no witnesses. That's how kidnappings go down. A hit is the same way. You look for a place where there are no witnesses and it's easy to snatch the person or fire the shots, kill them right away. So let us look at it as a kidnapping. So they monitored him for 3 months, and then they decide at the right moment at his workplace to snatch him. They snatched him. I always feel that the calls for ransom was just a cover for what they were doing. Yeah. They went out of the way to kill him. Because if you're going to kidnap for ransom and you call for 3 to 5 million ransom, days will pass based on experience. Days pass before anything happen, right? You will not get the 3 to 5 million. You will end up getting much less, and you might take that. So you start off at the higher end, and then you drop it to the lower end, and you release the person.
Right. But based on what you're saying, based on what you're saying here, like I said, and the police said at that time that the trail had gone cold, and that was it. But many people who watch this program and look at what we're doing with these cold cases say, listen, at some point, there has to be something to make that connection. And based on your experience, is it just a matter of laziness? Is it just a matter of not having the will? Or is it just a matter of, whether it be resources or whatever? What stops it dead in the tracks to be labeled as just cool when there's still so much information in the public domain?
Well, the first thing, Sergeant George has retired. So that means somebody else will have to pick up this case. It's a matter before the cold case unit that was formed 2 years ago. There are so many cold cases before this unit. This unit, you could say, is part of the Homicide Bureau, and we know what is going on these days with homicide. So you're looking at the cases that are coming up now rather than going back 18 years ago. We on this program some time ago talk about Akil Chambers, but nobody is taking it on. It's cool. It's cool as well. So Ashmead Bash, I don't think anything going to happen, because there will always be suspects. They will always point fingers. But where's the evidence that will come to arrest these persons for shooting and killing? Normally in these things, if it's a gang of guys, you depend on one of them to turn. It always happens in gang killings. One man turn and give evidence against his colleagues. This has not happened because, as far as I remember in covering this matter, they really had no suspects, They really didn't know who did it. They know it was done, but they don't know which group of people, although they were saying a religious group was responsible for it, but nobody really knew that it was that case. And I left it after years. I say it was a hit. It's not a kidnapping. That was a hit on the Bash family.
Yeah, but the same individual that you spoke about, there seemed to have been, that was a person of interest. There has been more than one incident, as far as we know here in Trinidad, that has been always circling around such names. And if that be the case, I mean, at what point in time do you move in and say, listen, there has to be some sort of fire because there's a lot of smoke? When do you reach to the point where you say you hit the wall and that's it? That's it. And in the public,
Well,
we say, but hey, this name just keeps calling.
yeah, well, I think the police hit a wall because there's no interest there, right? I think after the two guys were acquitted, for the police, that is the end of the matter. They arrested, they did their job, although the case was very bad, and it took 15 years to come to trial. Imagine you sit down there in 15 years in the
Right.
remand yard waiting, and then after 3 weeks you walk out free, you know? So as far as I said, the police sergeant has retired, he has gone his way. Everybody around him at that time, I'm sure, either retired or reaching retirement age too. So who is going to pick it up? Not the young people in the
but that's
court
the thing.
unit.
Well, that's the thing. It's not just about investigating. And as you mentioned before, the case can only be closed when justice is brought. If justice is brought forward, then there's real closure. So at least we would know exactly, listen, this is what transpired, this is what happened. And of course, that is going to be beneficial to the families and all the well-wishers. But you're talking about one officer has retired and that's it. I mean, at some point in time, you have to ask yourself, what is this system that seems not to be looking to bring justice, but to simply do just enough that it ends up where the trail is cool and the case just has to be put aside?
Yeah, and I think for the Bash family, they will never get closure. They will never know for sure what was the motive. They are hanging on that it was a kidnapping that went bad. They have also heard the rumors about the relationship with the other person, but they cannot be sure, you know. And for I remember speaking to Mr. Bash years ago about this,
Yeah.
you know, and he really didn't know what was the real motive. You know, he keep hearing things, but you know, it's something that I think his parents will die and go to the grave and don't know what really happened to their 30-year-old son because he was a businessman, and it was so strange that after his body was found, all the ransom calls ended. And that was quick, quick, quick. After kidnapping, as I said earlier, kidnapping for ransom take days before you reach somewhere. You know, kidnap today and kill a man tomorrow, right? It just tells you it wasn't a kidnapping, you know? And they say people from Princestown and Barrapo areas carried out the kidnapping, and police pulling all these people, but nothing stuck, and that was the end of that. Same thing, I think they picked up the wrong people in Mala Mohammed murder, and although the two JPs were called to authenticate the statement of the one man, and the jury didn't believe them either. You know, so that remains unsolved too. Uncle Khaled will never know who killed his wife.
Yeah, but
And what was the reason for a calculated hit like that in the driveway? You know?
yeah, but let me put you on the spot here a bit. I mean, you're walking around with a wealth of information. You were there. You have first-hand knowledge how things transpired. You start to connect the dots. If you were asked to work on this cold case division, would you be willing to assist, to help bring some closure to these cases, these many cases?
Yeah, well, like in many cases, as being a former crime reporter, there are a lot of information that you will have. I remember writing on many articles, and police will reach out to me and tell me that is not true. They went in another direction. And then months later, it swung back to my side, right? But police will never ask a reporter for assistance. You know, I could tell you after 32 years as a crime reporter, they will not ask you. They'll feel that they could do it on their own. And apart from being a crime reporter, I also sat in the courthouse covering the cases. So you know where cases fell down. You know, as it started, that was going nowhere, right? I wasn't there for the trial for killing of Mala Mohammed. That was 2 years ago. I was out already. But having gone to the preliminary inquiry and on a couple of times and heard the evidence, I tell myself since in 2007, this case going nowhere. And it took another 13 years before it reached trial. So it's just to tell you, how long these guys sit there and they have to wait for the day in court.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter
But
is
coming
that,
back to your,
yeah, and before you answer, coming back to the
yeah.
question that I asked you, and of course you mentioned that police wouldn't try to reach out to journalists, but if there's something that was overlooked, something that didn't stand out to them, some bit of information, something to connect the dots, isn't it at least worth looking at it, bringing in people, asking those who were covering and reporting on the incident, just to make sure that we get justice in these matters? Is that too much to ask?
No, that is not too much to ask at all. And I will swing to England. England police officers take everything they read in the papers and on television and work on it. And I'll give you one example. It was a newspaper article that broke the story about Boris Johnson hosting a party at his residence during COVID. It was a journalist who broke that story, and then the police took up the investigation, and then he was charged. So it just shows you that the journalists in England will assist the police officers. Now, that happened here. The police not going to reach out to the journalists to say how you get that information, where you got those pictures from. They will want to do their own investigation and say it have nothing in that. So it's a different, it based where you are. United States is the same thing. They look at the media and social media and they get information, vital information.
Right, to try to connect the dots. But one senior police officer told me that they would use the media indirectly as far as play off of the media. For example, a robbery goes down. Let's say it's really $50,000 that was stolen. The police would come out and say, listen, it was $150,000, expecting to be some rift among the people who committed the robbery, which might, in end result, somebody might shoot somebody, and they say, look, we found them. Have you seen that as well, where they have used the media to get certain information out to benefit them with their investigation?
Yes, I think it happened in the kidnapping of Vindra Naipaul Coolman in 2006. They had asked for $3 million ransom and they got just over 100,000. But it circulated in the media that the family paid $1 million. So the guys who carried out the kidnapping started to argue among themselves, and then one of the guys turned state witness.
Right.
But it all collapsed at the end of the day. But that was a perfect case where it was only 170,000 was given by the family. But in the media, it went to $1 million. So that means whoever collected the money shortchanged his partners, and there was a little thing went on there. But it always happens, especially in jewel robbery. Okay, we only get 50,000 jewel, but it's really $500,000 in jewels.
Well,
so they will fight among themselves based on what they read in the papers.
Well, it's an old trick that apparently works for the police at times. So, I want to thank you again. Closing comments, because I know there's other cases we'll be touching on, but what really stood out in this case with Ashmead Bash, when in fact that you spoke about one incident which basically led to another murder taking place. What really stood out in all of this?
Well, somebody in these two cases put a hit. First, Mala was killed in her driveway. It was not a robbery. The man just walked up to her and shot her and disappeared. And in the second case with Ashmead, which was 6 days later, I suspect it's the same people who killed Mala, kill Ashmead, and dump his body. And today, 18 years later, in fact, next month will be 18 years, we are no closer to solving either of these. So, okay, 2 cases for the cold case unit.
All right. Thank you so much again, Francis Joseph. You have been quite, should I say, enlightening as far as the information as we continue to connect the dots. It's always a pleasure to have you on The Observer. Want to thank you so much, and we'll be looking at more cases as we go along. Do enjoy the rest of your evening, and stay safe. Thank you.
Right.
Hey, folks,
Thanks
we're going to
very
pay
much.
some bills.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
Tired of being uncomfortable, sweating it out
That's
in a
it,
hot
right.
car? Then bring that mobile oven to Ryanair AC, experts in auto air conditioning. We service any make or model vehicle. Free diagnostics. Most repairs done while you wait. Ryanair AC provide warranties for replacement parts installed at our service center. We also stock a wide range of OEM replacement parts. Located number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua. To make a service appointment, give us a call at 640-5828. Ryanair AC, over 30 years in the auto air conditioning industry. Get your fresh and frozen meats at Dabadi Meat Mart. We provide healthy chickens at competitive prices. Also duck, lamb, goat, turkey drumsticks, pigtail, chicken parts, and more. Customers can have their fresh and frozen meats cut up free of charge. Dabadi Meat Mart, located corner Larry Sauce North Road and Eastern Main Road, Dabadi. Open Wednesday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 12 noon. You can place your pickup orders by calling 642-2287. We adhere to all COVID protocols for the safety of you and your loved ones. Looking to upgrade or purchase a new computer? Then visit Cyrus Technology, located number 83 Arima Old Road, Aruca. Cyrus Technology also carries a large stock of computer parts, such as hard drives, optical drives, video cards, monitors, desktops, power supplies and cases, and much more. Cyrus Technology for computer parts, new computer sales and services. Give us a call at 646-3741 or 681-8762 or email us at cyrustech@hotmail.com.
Folks, we're back and we're looking at some of the crime happenings taking place here in Trinidad and Tobago. We're speaking to Wayne Hade, aka Watchman, former police corporal with the TTPS, and he has been working with United Nations. He's now based in Uganda, and he's thrown his hat in the ring to be the next Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago. So let's say a special good evening to Mr. Wayne Hade, a.k.a. The Watchman. Good evening and welcome to The Observer right here on Synergy TV, all the way in Uganda. Hope all is well with you and you are safe. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Yes, I'm safe. Everything is okay.
Wonderful. Now, as the Watchman, you're watching out. Earlier this week, you sent out a voice note via the WhatsApp platform, where you spoke about some of the actions by Acting Commissioner of Police, DCP McDonald Jacobs. First, you mentioned the language. If you could expand on that, please, for the viewers.
Okay, let me first say that this is not the first time I've been sending voice notes. I have sent a lot of voice notes in relation to the issues between Gary Griffith and the police service and the government by extension. So this is just a continuation of my advocacy with respect to the police service.
Right. And you mentioned about the language. That stood out first of all. You said this language that should, of course, be kept for the old Western days. Please expand. Tell us.
Yes. Well, I noted that the commissioner, in elaborating about an exercise being used by the police during the Easter holidays, used the cliched term, the road is mine. And it reminded me of the other cliche used by Gary Griffith when he was commissioner, one shot, one kill. And I'm aware of the impact that language can have. you don't use words and cliches that can be used against you in the long run. The road belongs to everybody, every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So the road is mine. I know sometimes police departments use those things in the United States to show ownership of their environment. But there's a big difference in Trinidad and Tobago, because you have, in America, you have state police, you have the
Right.
federal police, you have city police, town police. So sometimes somebody can, the small area that they control, they can say that. But in Trinidad and Tobago, the commissioner is for the entire country, and the road belongs to all of us. What was striking to me is that soon after that statement was made, about 7 people got killed around Good Friday,
Right.
most being murdered. And I know the statement was made with respect to the traffic issues that were being addressed by the police, and sending people outside to do patrols and to stop traffic and to interdict those committing crimes. But using terms like the road is mine does not work, because the criminal element have no respect or understanding for those kind of cliches, and unless you're able to stop them, it does not work. And they will go out and commit acts to make you look bad, to show you to whom the road belongs,
Right.
because they believe that the road belongs to them.
Understand that, but let me ask you something, Mr. Wade. Doesn't that not fit into our culture? Isn't there an appetite within our culture that we want to, whoever the commissioner is, that they need to stamp their authority, and it has to be a badge? Going back to the whole Randolph Boroughs days, isn't that playing to the culture? How do you then change that? Because people want to know, well, hey, the man who is at the helm or the woman who's at the helm, they're big, they're bad, and they're powerful. How do you change that culture?
You can't change the culture by using words. You have to change the culture by using action. If the words themselves would lead to a particular result that people can see as being positive, as working in their favor, then yeah, it's okay. But it does not apply in the context of Trinidad and Tobago now. The Bajan element, the Randolph Boroughs era, is gone. This is the era of social media, where people can take your words, twist it, make it into memes, and use it against you. And you remember the one shot, one kill, which is another unfortunate use of terminology. So never do anything to poke the bear. If you want to make a statement, make it objective and as neutral as possible, whilst at the same time showing strength. You can show strength in how you look and how you approach it. But what happens after you say the road is mine and people get killed in large numbers? What happens then?
Yeah.
You make you look anemic.
Yeah. So you're saying if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the talk as well. And actions is the end result is what needs to be there. So again, I understand that, but there are those who seem to play up on that, But you also spoke about the handling or mishandling of the slain police officer, Clarence Gilks, saying that certain things should have been done. Now, the perception on the ground, and I want to tell you from a public perception, is that we heard a lot of talk as far as war, and we're going after them. But at no point in time did we hear as citizens that you want to bring this to justice. How dangerous is that?
Well, I can't speak to the commissioner's state of mind. What I can say is that the police must be aware that the death of any citizen, the murder of citizens, is a matter of public concern. And we must not only express outrage and talk about declaring war on criminals when we are affected, meaning police officers. The outrage must be for all citizens of the country who are facing the wrath of the criminal elements. And yes, you are right. You cannot, if you're using words, you must say that the perpetrators, a proper and thorough investigation will be done pronto. All leads will be examined. All evidence will be obtained. And every step will be taken to bring the perpetrators to justice as quickly as possible to ensure that this crime is solved. Yeah. And you can say that in the way you mean it, but you do not interject or make a statement which is now disputed by forensic evidence. That is the danger that has come to pass. Okay. And we want to be careful about that.
Now, no system is perfect. We're quite aware of that, whether it be in the United States or any developing nation. But we're now hearing, of course, 2 days ago that there are 2 investigations that have been launched by the Police Complaints Authority. And that is 1, how PC Gills was killed, and 2, the desecration of a masjid in Rich Plain in Diego Martin. Now, the question here is that we're talking about not just hours, but maybe 2 or 3 days after. We're talking about the PCA launching an investigation. Now, in the United States, you know that Internal Affairs comes on the scene at the very same time. Weapons are asked to be placed in the hands of the Internal Affairs officers. Documents are given. Statements are taken. How much of a flaw in the process deprives us of actually getting that justice that we're looking for?
Well, you must remember, in the United States, the Internal Affairs Division are themselves police officers.
Right.
With the power to investigate and the power to take cases to the district attorney if necessary, which is different to the Police Complaints Authority in Trinidad, whose authority is much more limited and restricted. And they don't have authority to interfere in investigations. One of the things I said is that one thing that must happen when there's a police shooting, especially of this nature, is that the firearms should be immediately retrieved by the police, maybe the Professional Standards Unit or someone in authority. So all the firearms are recovered that were part of that exercise, right, to serve as a measure of eliminating the death of the person from the police officers by showing who fired wrongs, how many was fired, and which wrong possibly struck the victim and killed that person. That must be done right away on the scene. Therefore, it would mean that you will have to secure the scene as immediately as possible by officers who know what they are doing, and to ensure that the scene is protected. We've been hearing, I don't know how true it is, that people were picking up shells on the ground. I don't know if that is true. If it was, that's a wrong procedure. The only way I would agree with picking up shells is if you're trying to secure the crime scene, like maybe you're rushing the victim to hospital and there's insufficient support on the ground to protect the scene itself, and you want to ensure that the shells that were fired by alleged criminals towards the police, you have evidence that that took place. I would like to know if they have done an immediate check on the firearms used by the police officers, which could provide exculpatory evidence and refute what the suspect is saying, or the person of interest is saying, that it was the police who shot the police by accident. Now, whether or not that happened, even if he shot them by accident, if there was during the course of a shootout involving that person, then that person is still criminally liable. But we need to find out that after a thorough investigation.
All right.
And for the commissioner to be talking about war and to talk about we will take it to them gives the wrong impression before you have all the facts before you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we're going to be right back. We're speaking to Mr. Wayne Hade, a.k.a. Watchman, right here on The Observer. We'll be right back after this short break.
Tired of being uncomfortable, sweating it out in a hot car? Then bring that mobile oven to Ryan Air AC, experts in auto air conditioning. We service any make or model vehicle. Free diagnostics. Most repairs done while you wait. Ryan Air AC provide warranties for replacement parts installed at our service center. We also stock a wide range of OEM replacement parts. Located number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua. To make a service appointment, give us a call at 640-5828. Ryan Air AC, over 30 years in the auto air conditioning industry. Get your fresh and frozen meats at Dabadi Meat Mart. We provide healthy chickens at competitive prices. Also duck, lamb, goat, turkey drumsticks, pigtail, chicken parts, and more. Customers can have their fresh and frozen meats cut up free of charge. Dabadi Meat Mart, located corner Larry Sauce North Road and Eastern Main Road, Dabadi. Open Wednesday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 12 noon. You can place your pickup orders by calling 642-2287. We adhere to all COVID protocols for the safety of you and your loved ones. Looking to upgrade or purchase a new computer? Then visit Cyrus Technology, located number 83 Arima Old Road, Aruca. Cyrus Technology also carries a large stock of computer parts, such as hard drives, optical drives, video cards, monitors, desktops, power supplies and cases, and much more. Cyrus Technology for computer parts, new computer sales and services. Give us a call at 646-3741 or 681-8762 or email us at cyrustech@hotmail.com.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're speaking to Watchman, the man himself, Mr. Wayne Hade, who is weighing in on some of the issues. Mr. Hade, again, going back to one of the things that you mentioned in your voice note, and what we're seeing here with the PCA investigation, they're being told, investigators are being told in the area that from the residents that they want an independent and thorough investigation because of the information that is out that this may not have happened by the hands of the alleged assailant. This may have happened from one of the officers, whatever it may be. When it does come out, we'll know exactly. But how challenging is it when you have two different stories being played out in the court of public opinion? What sort of challenge or what sort of hindrance would the investigators face?
That's a big problem. And you mentioned Burroughs' days. In those days, they did not have social media. They did not have people being able to go on social media, on the internet, and say whatever they want, whether it's true or not, and have no way of filtering the truth from just conjecture, hearsay, or just outright lies. So it requires the police to have a certain level of information or informants in the area to get information from those who may have it. And everyone, we really need to tap all the resources in terms of looking at on social media and finding all the persons who may have made statements and having them interviewed. Look, in Trinidad and Tobago, and I think it started with the politicians by who sometimes cast bad light on the police. Everything is being questioned now. And when it starts from the politicians, those who may be in government or in opposition who may become government, it allows the public to say, don't believe anything that the police tell you. And therefore, all kinds of hearsay and misinformation is being spread. It is up to the police to work together with the Police Complaints Authority, the police professional standards unit, and to go out there, blanket the area, canvass the area, and find everyone who may have relevant information. But what it would mean is that the police officials must not make any statement that could be deemed as being a confirmation or a conclusion before all the facts have come in.
Yeah, but
that is why it's important to have a police spokesman.
Very much so, and I agree. I think communication is key here. But was Mr. Jacobs in a position where he had to make these statements to send a message to his colleagues, to the fellow officers that, listen, your life means something. I am not going to take this lightly. I have to show that, listen, these are my officers. You touch one, you touch all. Was he in a position, or was it a situation where he had to say something to ensure the officers that this will not go unchecked?
Yes, he had to say something, and it was his duty and responsibility to give a strong message. But you remember that the audience is different.
Okay.
He could have addressed an internal message to the police service from the Commissioner of Police as to what we are doing to protect our officers and to find the perpetrators.
All right.
That's one element. Then he has to talk to the public, to let the public understand that we also feel the pain as police officers. One of our own has been killed, so we understand when you, as members of the public, lose members of your family to murder and other crimes, that we feel strongly and will take every effort and leave no stone unturned in terms of investigating and bringing perpetrators to justice. But it is important to know that there must be a thorough and complete investigation, and I am not at liberty to make any statement that could prejudice the investigation.
Understood.
And that is how you have to make the statement.
Right, but let me ask you, going back to the culture, you mentioned that it's difficult, or it's really a Herculean task trying to change the culture. But what do you do when you have an entity like the TTPS, where from on the outside looking in, people working just hard enough to remain hired and just good enough not to be fired, and say, listen, I can't wait to retire, get my early retirement, go on a long retirement leave, and when I do come back, whatever I need to get, gratuity, and I make the transfer across to some private security firm, and that's it. What happens to promotions? What happens to the morale of the officers? Who's there to unite and to lead them, and them to understand that your responsibility is one where you cannot take lightly? Looking at that from the outside, I mean, as a citizen, what would you change if given the opportunity to make some change?
Okay, number one, we made mistakes. We changed the training of police officers to make it like almost like an academy, a school of learning, rather than a barracks where you're teaching people courage and discipline and an understanding that this role that you're providing is a thankless one. You can't have people having the esprit de corps that is necessary if you're sending them home every afternoon and you have changed the culture to make it almost like a civilian entity rather than a paramilitary entity. And also, you have changed you made it a meritocracy where you have removed the possibility of persons who really want to be police officers from joining the service. For example, when I joined the service, I joined with a school leaving certificate because I never went to secondary school.
All right.
I may have many degrees now, but at that time, my pride and my duty, I wanted to be a policeman. And I was able to join with a school leaving certificate. What they have to do is to go back and have a system of equivalency, meaning that if a person doesn't have the O levels but is able to pass a set examination to enter the service, let's bring them in. Because the guys with O levels and A levels coming into the service now, generally, and I'm not criticizing them, but I'm saying generally have a tendency to think that this is just a stop on the way to something better. It is part of their CV building, and they don't have the same strength of character to take on the police job as a police job. It is something that they have to do for their lives. Once a police, always a police, even after you retire.
All right. And to unite that unit, as far as making them understand that, listen, it's if we don't go home unless we all go home. We come out every day, we put our lives on the line, this is what we do. How do you unite people to understand that, you know, this chain, of course, is like anything else. The weakest link is going to cause a problem. Whether you have one that has gone rogue, one that is simply not disciplined enough, how do you deal with such factors?
Well, one of the things that they have done that I've always been against, when officers commit certain acts, they want to charge everyone for misbehavior in public office. They want to charge everyone for criminal offenses. With our slow justice system, what will happen is that police officers remain for years and years waiting to face their day in court. In the meantime, the witnesses die, change their minds, evidence gets lost, and everything goes out of the window, and we still have the rogue cops or the ill-disciplined police officers within the service. Within the police service regulations, there are procedures to take action against police officers and dismiss them even while you're waiting for them to be charged for an offense under the law. But we have a tendency to farm off our responsibility onto the court system that is unable and unwilling to deal with all of these, for them, minor cases coming from the police service.
Okay.
We need to make the commissioner more accountable in terms of not just making statements to the press and showing up at a hospital at the bedside of a criminal, but making sure that their senior officers are also accountable. For example, when I was in the United Nations, in doing performance appraisal, no officer above me within my team would get their performance appraisal signed off on until all the others under them have been signed off to my satisfaction. And if things are not going right, I don't want to see everybody getting A's or 1s and things are going bad and I know it's going bad. That should be a reflection on the officers.
And of course, that in exchange, that of course holds every division accountable for performance.
Every division, every section, every unit. And accountability must be done in a way that if the officer does not satisfy the requirement, it says why they will not get promoted.
All right. No. One of the things.
It requires the commissioner, the executive members, to get up and get out and make it happen. They were complaining under Gary a lot. He brought civilians and put them over them, put them on the 5th floor and the civilians on the 6th floor. But these are senior officers, assistant commissioners and deputy commissioners, and they did nothing. It shows a weakness or a lack of character, strength of character.
Yeah. One of the things we deal here on The Observer is cold cases. And I have a veteran journalist by the name of Francis Joseph, who weighs in on many of these cases that he has first-hand knowledge with. But what really gets me and to my viewers is that it just simply ends up a cold case because the officer has retired, the trail has gone cold. And if you have a veteran journalist that has information that you could piece together to solve a case and bring to justice, why is there so much resistance? Why is it that this is not something that is being done? An officer simply retires and that is the end of it. There's no closure, no justice. How does that then benefit the wider society?
It mainly is because of a flawed culture in the police service, that when you retire or leave the service, your knowledge, experience, and expertise dies when you leave. So they don't see the need, like in foreign countries, to bring back old officers, give them back some of the cases that they left when they retire, to follow up as part of a cold case unit or cold case units, to allow them to try to solve the matters.
Yeah.
So once they die or they leave, all the cases under them die, and there's no system of accountability that every case is important.
Yeah.
There is a bad culture that they don't want to take advice or take the expertise of all the senior officers and other junior officers who have skills and expertise that they can bring to bear on the police service.
Yeah, but that really doesn't say well. I mean, if you look at it, taking this advice is helping, of course, to bring some closure to these cases. An officer retired, gone, but they are more than capable and able to go into the private sector, but not good enough to come back and try to solve these cases. Why is that?
Because we have created a culture and an atmosphere where promotion is an end unto itself, rather than being as a system whereby your promotion shows that you are taking higher levels of accountability and responsibility. So it's almost like the Peter principle, where you promote a man to the height of his incompetence. In other countries, they have systems whereby an officer may become senior, gets paid a certain rank for performing certain functions that may be higher than another officer who is of a higher rank. But this person does not have the wherewithal to get up to the higher levels that is more administrative, but would make a brilliant criminal investigator.
Right.
There are those who argue that was one of the weaknesses of Burroughs, that he was a brilliant criminal investigator with a knowledge of what was on the ground, but as an administrator, he did not understand all of the ramifications, and the others around him used it against him.
Yeah, understood.
It is necessary for us to look at that system.
Understood. As we wrap up, I want you to choose a low-hanging fruit that you believe that can be implemented, let's say within 90 days, that we could see some sort of a change in what is taking place. Something that you yourself have been looking at, low-hanging fruit that can be put into place, and something can bring about some change to what is taking place in this country.
It depends on the change that you're talking about.
Well, go ahead.
I have said that they need to have mandatory sentences for gun-related offenses. And we should make the system expedited, so that people charged for criminal offenses involving firearms have their day in court very quickly and be put away very quickly. But as far as the police service is concerned, you will have to look back at the resources that we have wasted and remains being wasted outside, to ease up those other officers to perform key functions, like what you're saying, for example, bringing back officers to do certain kinds of cases. I know they have brought back some officers, but is only in a limited scale, on a limited scale, not division by division, not cases by cases or groups of cases. Now, the other thing is, what is the Police Service Commission waiting on to appoint a substantive commissioner?
Good question.
And they have changed the procedure somewhat. Let us see them go a step further. But let us be mindful of the fact that police work is better done by those who have a culture and understanding of the police service. And then let's look at our training methods and what we have done so far.
Do you believe that it is somewhat, should I say, unfair or not logical by bringing in a foreigner who would have to adapt to our culture, get an understanding of it, and by the time that happens, perhaps his contract expires? Should there be someone locally who has an idea? But again, the administrative part of it needs to have that support staff, that support system. What do you believe is going to make a very effective commissioner of police? What would it take, especially for this culture?
A commissioner of police who understands that you can't extempo. When facing the press, for example, you have to have the information and knowledge at your disposal, or if you don't, say, I will have that matter confirmed or clarified and come back to you. No extemporing. That is for Calypso.
All right.
Number two, understand that knowledge does not only exist within the ranks of the police service. There are many people who were former police officers or in other positions who may be able to provide assistance to the police service in certain key areas. Gary Griffith did a good thing by bringing advisors. The bad thing was that all the advisors he brought, most of them, in my opinion, did not understand the police culture. But at least he made an attempt to surround himself with people who may have some knowledge.
All right.
But you cannot have such a big ego that you bring people and then not listen to them. So the commissioner must have an ego strong enough to do the job, but must also have a serenity of attitude to understand that this is not about a yes. We move as a group, as a team, and we find the best methods in order to solve the problems. And if the officers around you sitting down are too coward or too weak to bring you on your toes, put you on your feet, and keep you on your toes, then you cannot be commissioner. Maybe we need to look at a different system. Maybe we need to bring in also an inspectorate of police, who will have a more integrated function in the police service under a chief inspector with a more key role to perform some of the internal affairs functions that you have mentioned.
All right. Our time is up.
We're having the power inside.
Yeah, our time is up. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to link with us here. It has definitely been a pleasure. I will be checking in with you again, and we'll be talking about spyware. I guess you did mention that on your voice note. In a later time, you will be talking about the whole spyware fiasco. Thank you so much again. Stay safe. Tell all the good folks in Uganda we send love from Trinidad and Tobago, and keep up the good work. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to say whatever I can to help my country.
Keep on watching, Watchman. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of this evening's program. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. right here on Synergy TV, The Observer with yours truly, Mikee K. And for those of you who have stories and want to hit us up, just send me a WhatsApp message to my number, 494-0938. That's 494-0938. Thank you, and do enjoy the rest of your evening.